Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Heart-Centered Therapist podcast. I'm Sindee Gozansky, your host. I'm a therapist, supervisor, and group practice owner. And today, I'm going to put on my couples therapist hat and talk about a really important topic for therapists: countertransference in couples therapy. So let's jump right in. What exactly is countertransference? In simple terms, it's the emotional reactions that we as therapists experience in response to our clients. And these reactions are often shaped by our own past experiences, biases, or unresolved issues. And let's be real, no therapist is immune to it. It's part of our humanity. In couples therapy, countertransference can show up in subtle or not so subtle ways. You might find yourself feeling way more connected to one partner than the other. Maybe you avoid certain topics because they hit too close to home. Or you realize you're reacting emotionally in a way that goes beyond typical empathy. Maybe even seeing their struggles through the lens of your own relationship history. So what happens when we don't recognize countertransference? That's when it can get in the way of effective therapy. When we don't recognize countertransference, it can lead to biased interventions, strained communication, and even reinforce negative patterns within the couple, the very thing we're trying to heal. So, countertransference itself isn't the problem. It's how we manage it that matters. So what can we do? It starts with self-awareness. Self-awareness is key. We always start with self-awareness. Regular supervision, consultation, continuing education can help us notice when countertransference is creeping in, can help build the reflection of your self-awareness, just like mindfulness practices, and of course, having clear boundaries. But again, the goal is not to eliminate countertransference, it's to recognize it, to reflect on it, and to ensure that it is not steering the therapy process. So at the end of the day, countertransference is normal. I'm going to share some very practical examples with you, but I really want to reassure you right from the start that countertransference does not mean you're a bad therapist. It means you're a human being doing therapy, and probably you're pretty heart-centered at that. In fact, acknowledging that countertransference happens for you shows clinical strength and commitment to ethical and effective therapy. Let's look next at some real-life examples of countertransference in couples therapy, what it looks like in the room, and some ways that we can handle it. We're going to look at 5 situations that most couples therapists will recognize. I've experienced all of these, and I'm here to remind you, you're not alone. Countertransference is normal, and this is going to lead to opportunities to deepen your work. So, let's start with something super common for the first example: siding with one partner. You might find yourself agreeing more with one partner, feeling more connected to them, or even subtly favoring their point of view. Maybe their story resonates with you or their energy feels safer. It can happen so easily, but this kind of countertransference where you feel more in support of or biased toward one partner's perspective can lead to unintentionally neglecting the other partner's experience. I'm primarily an emotion-focused couples therapist using EFT, and in EFT, we don't take sides, but instead we hold, validate, and explore each side, each partner's experience. We look at the cycle that they're caught in and help the partner see how they co-create that pattern, that negative interactional pattern, which may give rise to this very dynamic that you, the therapist, are experiencing when you favor one partner more. So we work toward understanding how their negative cycle makes each of them feel stuck, hurt, or unseen. And this is exactly what will help you connect and have an understanding of the other partner's perspective of why they do these moves, why sometimes people in their realm might feel disconnected, just like you, the therapist, did from them. And so it starts to give you a sense of their experience, which opens your curiosity and then can help you have more empathy, interest, and connection with them. Now, other couples therapy approaches have ways of working with this same countertransference move. So, for instance, maybe if you, the therapist, find yourself disliking how one partner is overbearing or critical, using the Gottman approach, you could help the partner move from criticism to complaint, or explore what their wishes are underneath that conflict or underneath that criticism. And again, that's a way to understand their experience from a softer place that helps you feel connected to them and to their perspective and experience. In relational life therapy, the couples therapist actually does take sides. And the therapist does this in order to try to restore power imbalances using loving, gentle confrontation. So in this model, your countertransference is actually a signal that you're working right in that sweet spot where you need to be, right at the edge of their conflict. And that can help you lean into challenging their patterns. And another final simple reframe for the therapist siding with one partner more is to just bring in curiosity toward that person. Remember, whenever you're not feeling empathy, curiosity is always your go-to. Okay. Second example of countertransference in couples therapy is when the therapist is feeling triggered by an angry partner. Maybe one partner gets angry in session and you notice yourself shutting down or getting defensive. This could connect to your own history, maybe conflict in your personal life or unresolved issues from the past, you name it. But when the therapist withdraws or feels defensive, this might unintentionally reinforce the couple's negative cycle. And so that's why we are trying to be so self-aware of when countertransference appears, because it's giving us a message and telling us the work we need to do to help the couple. So in emotion-focused therapy, instead of avoiding that anger, we lean in. As George Fowler says, I never met a client who didn't have good reasons for getting angry. So we validate their anger. We let them know that their anger makes sense. We look for the function of the anger. Very often it is protective. We explore what's underneath it, what attachment need is trying to be expressed, and we work toward getting to that softer, more vulnerable place. But we never rush to get there, and we have to first validate and really, really understand the anger. Even as I just said all of that, you could see how we're moving away from being triggered to validating and exploring. And these things you already do well as a therapist. You know you can validate and explore. So remember that. You've got this. You can work with anger. I love helping couples therapists with this. And so if it's something you're interested in, reach out to me about joining my consultation group. Let's move on to the third example of countertransference, which is wanting to be liked or avoid conflict. This one is sneaky. You want the couple to like you, which is not a bad thing. You want to do a good job, and that can result in trying to please them or in over-attuning. Maybe you agree with them to maintain comfort, or you kind of nod along even when someone says something critical or blaming. You might let things go or avoid challenging moments because you don't want to upset the balance. This kind of countertransference can lead to the therapist agreeing with behaviors that are actually damaging the relationship. Again, completely unintentional, but that's why we want to notice when these countertransference pings happen for us in session. Our job as the couples therapist is to organize the couple's experience, to point out where they get stuck when it's happening in the room. So, using an EFT model, we name what's happening in real time. And we prepare our couples for this. We tell them all the time, I'm going to slow you down, I'm going to stop you or interrupt you. And then instead of avoiding the conflict, the therapist makes use of the conflict to help the couple have a different emotional experience than they normally would. This is our goal, always. Our goal is always for them to experience something different and connecting or contactful in the session instead of disconnecting, which is what they can do without you. So the couple needs the therapist to be brave and to identify when reactions happen, to organize it for the couple, to validate the good reasons that he does this and she does that and how that has been their only move. We help them see this is their only move, and we help them see the impact that this move has on their partner. And then we help them find a different way. So we don't want to avoid conflict or try to be liked completely. And that might be a sign that there's some countertransference going on. All right, 2 more to go. The 4th example is when the therapist fears one partner dominating the session. I told you these are all very common. Most of us know this one quite well. There's a more vocal partner with bigger energy or more articulate or dominant or bossy, and suddenly the whole session is steered by them. You feel overwhelmed or hesitant to interrupt. And then the quieter partner kind of fades into the background. You can even see it in their body language. When you inadvertently default into letting them take over the conversation, this fear can lead the therapist to lose control of the session's balance. And it starts reinforcing those unhealthy dynamics in the couple's relationships. That is the dynamic which brings up the countertransference for you. So in EFT, we recognize this dynamic as part of the cycle, the domineering one and the withdrawing one. And as you can see from the prior countertransference example of avoiding conflict, right? We basically can put anything into the cycle to make sense of it and validate it. We get at the good reasons that each partner does what they do. So in this case, the EFT therapist would acknowledge that this dominance is part of the couple's negative cycle, and we intentionally create space for the quieter partner. We work to balance the session so that both voices are heard and validated. And that way we start to slowly break the pattern together. And it's important to note, this is very, very important. We're not criticizing the dominant move. We're trying to understand it. What is the goal or function of it? And then help them see the impact on their partner when we, the therapist, can bring in that withdrawing partner's voice. All right. The last example is the very, very common countertransference of wanting to avoid confrontation when both partners escalate. For good reason, many of us feel anxious or fearful when tensions rise and tempers flare. Even if you didn't come from a personal background of high family conflict, it's pretty common to get triggered when intense emotions enter the room. I know I do. Maybe both partners are pursuers, and before you know it, the session escalates fast. It hits your nervous system, you feel anxious, maybe you start sweating a little bit, maybe you start wondering, oh no, what's going to happen to this session? You want to shut it down, calm them down, make it all feel safe again. We've all been there. And here's the thing. In EFT, instead of avoiding these emotions, the therapist would validate their anger and take charge. The couple can fight like this without you. They are really good at it, and they're showing you it right in front of your eyes. What they need is for you, the therapist, to remain grounded and to be in charge, to be directive. You can tell the couple to stop talking to each other. You can acknowledge that they're in their cycle right now and ask each partner to speak one at a time directly to you, not to each other. Okay, you two are in your cycle. It's here in the room. I need you to stop talking to each other for a moment and talk to me, one at a time. Match their energy, validate their anger, validate their frustration, one at a time. This helps to create a container for the emotional intensity that they don't have at home. And now you're creating the safety that they need to de-escalate while feeling heard. It can be an advanced move to begin to de-escalate in this way, but once you do it a few times, you're also helping the couple know they'll be safe. If they start to pop into an argument, they're going to be safe with you because they know you know how to handle it and that you're going to be able to let each partner feel heard. So, wrapping up, here's the truth. If you've experienced countertransference, you are not broken. You're not incompetent as a therapist. You're human. Every therapist brings their whole self into the room, and countertransference is just a signal. It tells us there's something to be curious about. Remember that curiosity as a way into empathy. There's something that we need to reflect on, another message from countertransference. When we can notice it, work with it, we actually deepen our presence, our empathy, and our effectiveness. Managing countertransference is a skill that grows over time, and it starts with self-awareness. Keep checking in with yourself. Notice your reactions, your biases, your emotional responses. Stay curious, keep learning, attend trainings, listen to podcasts, maintain good boundaries. Most importantly, get support. Supervision is not just for new therapists, it's for all of us. Find a supervisor or a peer group that aligns with your approach. Reach out to me if you're interested in how I work with couples and want to join a consultation group. And finally, use yourself as the therapist. Stay grounded, present, and aware in the moment. When we do this, we turn countertransference from a liability into an opportunity for insight, growth, and for real transformation in the therapy room. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so grateful to each of you. Please share this episode with a friend and leave a review. It helps build our therapist community. And until next time, stay heart-centered.